Polygamy. Polygamy, the practice of having multiple spouses, has been a part of human history across many cultures and religions. In ancient societies, it was often linked to social, economic, or religious reasons. For example, in the Bible, figures like Abraham, Jacob, and Solomon had multiple wives, which was not unusual for their time and served to strengthen alliances, expand family lineage, or fulfill societal expectations. Similarly, in parts of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, polygamy was a way to ensure economic stability or address gender imbalances due to war or other factors. Historically, polygamy was also tied to religious directives in some contexts. For instance, in 19th century Mormonism, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints practiced polygamy under the guidance of church founder Joseph Smith. This practice was seen as a divine commandment, aligning with examples from Scripture and reflecting the belief that it could help build strong, unified communities. However, polygamy has not been universally accepted and has faced significant criticism over time. In modern contexts, it is often viewed as incompatible with contemporary values around gender equality and individual rights. Today, while the mainstream Mormon Church has banned the practice for over a century, some offshoot groups continue to uphold it. Polygamy remains a topic of debate, reflecting cultural, legal, and religious complexities surrounding marriage practices worldwide. Slavery. The relationship between world religions and slavery has evolved significantly over time. It is impossible to generalize any major religion's stance on slavery without considering the historical context, different eras, and sectarian variations. In some periods, slavery was viewed as a divine right, with religious texts outlining rules and practices for its implementation. In other times, slavery was condemned as a grave moral evil by religious leaders and communities. For example, both Islam and Judaism include written doctrines addressing the treatment of slaves based on their religion. The Quran provides distinct guidelines for the treatment of Islamic versus non-Islamic slaves, while the Hebrew Bible outlines similar distinctions for Jewish and non-Jewish slaves. These texts reflect how slavery was regulated within a religious framework rather than outright rejected in ancient contexts. Over time, as societal values shifted, many religious communities reinterpreted or abandoned such practices, contributing to movements against slavery. This evolution highlights the complex and often contradictory ways religions have approached the issue throughout history. Heaven or hell. Surprisingly, the concepts of heaven and hell, as we often imagine them today, are relatively modern. Iconic images of fiery infernos and serene, cloud-filled heavens are even more recent developments. Neither the Bible nor the Quran provides extensive descriptions of heaven or hell. Instead, these texts emphasize the eternal nature of the human soul, but offer few details about its fate after death. There are vague references to salvation for those who live in service to God, but explicit notions of heaven and hell are scarce. It was only centuries after the Bible was written and circulated that the afterlife's imagery began to take shape. Theologian Bart Ehrman explained in an interview with Terry Gross that early believers convinced of the soul's immortality began to wonder about the fate of those who were not aligned with God. This led to the concept of hell as a place of punishment, contrasting with heaven as a place of reward. Over time, religious leaders and thinkers expanded on these ideas, shaping the evolving narratives of the afterlife as they tried to understand and explain what lies beyond this life. Polytheism. Many of today's major religions are monotheistic, worshiping a single deity, but most began with polytheistic roots. Judaism, for instance, now recognizes Yahweh as the one true God, a belief it shares with Christianity and Islam. However, early followers of Judaism did not reject the existence of other gods. They simply viewed Yahweh as the one God above all others. In ancient Canaan, polytheism was dominant, with numerous gods, including various Baals, receiving worship. When Judaism emerged, Yahweh was initially considered one of many deities. Over time, as cultures engaged in wars and religious conflicts, Yahweh's status rose above the rest. This elevation of Yahweh led to a consolidation of other gods, with all the Baals being merged into one figure. Eventually, this single Baal came to be viewed as Yahweh's adversary, representing opposition to the true God. The progression from polytheism to monotheism in Judaism illustrates how religious beliefs can evolve and adapt to societal changes. It also highlights the dynamic interplay between culture, conflict, and the development of theological ideas. Pagan Christianity. When monotheistic religions began to emerge in opposition to polytheistic traditions, the divide between these ideologies was often less stark than it might seem. Throughout history, there are numerous instances of religions coexisting and even sharing worship practices. A well-known example is the coexistence of Christianity and Celtic paganism in Ireland, where both were practiced side by side for centuries. While the relationship wasn't entirely harmonious, there were periods and places where followers of both faiths engaged in mutual or parallel worship without conflict. Christianity followed a similar pattern in other regions, coexisting with Norse paganism, Roman polytheism, and various other belief systems during certain tolerant eras. This shared worship often reflected the blending of religious practices and cultural traditions, allowing elements of polytheism to influence monotheistic rituals and vice versa. Such interactions demonstrate that the boundaries between competing religions were sometimes fluid, shaped by context rather than strict opposition. Over time, these interactions helped shape the evolving identities of the religions involved, creating a rich tapestry of spiritual and cultural exchange. The universe. Before the Renaissance, geocentrism, the belief that Earth was the center of the universe, was widely accepted and supported by religious and cultural views. This belief faced competition from heliocentrism, which had been proposed by ancient Greek scholars, including Aristarchus of Samos. Aristotle strongly supported geocentrism, influencing many of his time, while Aristarchus's heliocentric ideas were largely dismissed. The Roman-Egyptian scholar Ptolemy later solidified the geocentric model with his work Almagest, which dominated scientific thought for over 1,500 years. Ptolemy's theories aligned with the cultural and religious views of Earth's central role in the universe. It wasn't until the 16th century that Nicholas Copernicus presented his heliocentric model, challenging geocentrism. Copernicus's work began to shift scientific thinking, paving the way for the acceptance of heliocentrism. This revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos, marking a pivotal moment in scientific history. The image of Jesus. The image of Jesus Christ as a white man is a modern portrayal that does not align with historical evidence. Jesus was a Middle Eastern man born in what is now Israel, and historical records do not support the idea that he was white. The concept of a white Christ evolved over time, particularly during the Renaissance and European colonialism, with artworks by influential painters helping establish this image in Western societies. While theologians and historians debate Jesus' true appearance, scientific studies of skeletal remains and DNA analysis suggest he was not white. Instead, his skin color is described as olive, typical of Mediterranean peoples. This reflects his true ethnicity and challenges centuries of misrepresentation in art and culture. Understanding Jesus' true appearance highlights the diverse, multicultural aspects of his life and teachings. It calls for a more historically accurate and inclusive perspective on a figure whose influence transcends racial and cultural boundaries. Life of Jesus. The image and story of Jesus have evolved significantly over time, not just in terms of his appearance, but also in how his life and mission were portrayed. During his lifetime, Jesus was a highly influential prophet, but he had to compete with established religious traditions. To help attract converts, his followers employed a strategy of selective syncretism, blending elements from other religious traditions. This approach helped make Christianity more relatable to non-Christians by adopting familiar themes and stories. Many of the more extraordinary aspects of Jesus' life were influenced by the Roman god Mithras, who shared several similarities with him. Mithras, like Jesus, was born on December 25th to a virgin mother, traveled as a prophet, performed healings, walked on water, and was known as a savior and shepherd. He also had 12 followers and was resurrected after 3 days. These parallels between the lives of Mithras and Jesus highlight how elements from earlier religious figures were incorporated into Christian theology, making the new faith more accessible to those already familiar with these myths. The process of syncretism wasn't unique to Christianity, but was a common method used by emerging religions to gain followers and establish relevance in a competitive religious landscape. By adapting these shared myths, early Christians were able to weave Jesus' story into the broader religious tapestry of the time, helping to ensure its spread and acceptance across different cultures. God, kings. In Japan, the term for emperor literally translates to heavenly emperor, a reflection of the belief that the emperor was once considered a demigod. This belief held that the Japanese emperor was a descendant of Amaterasu, the sun god, a view that persisted until the end of World War II. After Japan's surrender, the emperor's divine status was officially renounced, as the country's leadership was forced to disavow the idea that their ruler was anything more than human. However, Japan was not the only place where monarchs were believed to have divine status. Throughout history, many rulers have declared themselves, or were declared by others, to be god kings. Notable examples include the pharaohs of Egypt, the kings of Rome, and the shahs of Iran, all of whom were regarded as divine figures. Even in modern times, there are still groups that believe in the continued divinity of certain monarchs, such as some who argue that the Japanese emperor never truly relinquished his divine status. This belief in divine kingship has played a significant role in the power and legitimacy of rulers throughout history, shaping both political and religious landscapes. Role of women. The role of women in religion has changed significantly throughout history. Many religious traditions initially confined women to secondary roles, excluding them from leadership positions. In Christianity and Judaism, women were traditionally barred from becoming priests or rabbis, and their roles were limited to supporting male religious leaders. However, in the 19th and 20th centuries, social movements advocating for gender equality began to influence religious institutions. Protestant denominations like the Episcopal Church and United Methodist Church began ordaining women, breaking long-held barriers. In Judaism, the Reform and Reconstructionist movements allowed women to become rabbis. Hinduism also saw progress with the recognition of female gurus and spiritual leaders. These changes reflect a broader cultural shift toward gender equality, as many faiths now emphasize spiritual calling over gender. This channel achieved monetization organically in just 4 months. With the right approach, you could reach this milestone, or even do so in as little as 30 days. For more details, refer to the description or the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. In the next video, every famous religious artwork with hidden messages, we'll uncover the secrets behind iconic religious artworks filled with hidden symbols and deeper meanings. Stay tuned for an intriguing dive into the mysteries of religious art.